Hello and welcome to the show. We are so glad you're tuning in today. Let's kick things off with a little truth bomb, shall we?
Let's do it. Here's a fact that might just blow your mind. A huge majority of English learners out there actually know enough English to hold a basic conversation. Think about that for a second. That's millions of people who have the fundamental skills, the vocabulary, the basic grammar, sitting right there in their brains.
It's a massive number. But here's the kicker. The part that truly gets me. Only a small fraction of those learners ever actually speak it regularly. There's this huge gap between what people know and what they do. It's a confidence gap.
And what's filling that gap? Fear. Fear hijacks the brain. It's like our minds hit the panic button, and suddenly all those words and grammar rules we've diligently learned just vanish into thin air. Studies on foreign language anxiety show this is a real, measurable phenomenon. It triggers communication apprehension, a fear of negative judgment, and this feeling that you're constantly being tested.
It's a physical feeling too. That knot in your stomach, your heart beating faster, that sudden urge to just disappear when someone asks you a question in English. If you have ever felt that, then you are absolutely in the right place. We've both been there. I remember being in a market in a foreign country needing to ask a simple question, and my mind just went completely blank. I knew the words, but they wouldn't come out. It was mortifying.
Exactly. It feels so isolating, but it's an incredibly common experience. This isn't just another episode about learning English. It's about unlocking your voice, silencing that inner critic, and stepping into a world where you can finally communicate with the confidence you deserve.
We're going to give you the tools to bridge that gap between knowing and doing. Today, we're going to dive deep into practical strategies and powerful mindset shifts that will help you not just know English, but speak English boldly and beautifully. Let's do this. Okay, so you're ready to conquer that fear. You're ready to start speaking. But how? Where do you even begin when the first step feels like a giant leap? Let's start with some super practical, actionable tips you can implement today, right now, to build that foundation of confidence.
First up, and this might sound counterintuitive, especially for you fast talkers out there, speak slowly and clearly.
I know, right? We have this internal monologue that says, if I speak fast, I'll sound fluent. I'll sound like a native speaker. But it's a total myth. In reality, rushing often leads to stumbling over words, mumbling, and ultimately, less clarity. You end up confusing yourself and the person you're talking to.
It's so true. When you deliberately slow down your speech, two amazing things happen. One, you give your brain precious extra seconds to process your thoughts, find the right word, and construct your sentences. It reduces that frantic, panicked feeling of searching for vocabulary that's just on the tip of your tongue. It's like giving yourself permission to think.
And two, it makes you so much easier to understand. And when you see that look of comprehension on the other person's face, that little nod they give you, that's a massive confidence booster. It's positive reinforcement in real time. So, take a breath. Enunciate your words. This isn't about being slow, it's about being deliberate and effective.
Next, let's talk about a huge mental hurdle, maybe the biggest one of all. Focus on communication, not perfection. Oh, the dreaded fear of making mistakes. It's probably the number one reason many of us just clam up.
Absolutely. We build up the grammar rules in our heads to be these sacred, unbreakable laws. But here's the secret. Native speakers make mistakes all the time. We use sentence fragments. We end sentences with prepositions. We fumble our words. The goal of language isn't to pass a grammar test. It's to connect with another human being. If you're getting your message across, even with a few grammatical hiccups, you are succeeding.
Think of it like this. Would you rather have a beautifully perfect, grammatically flawless sentence that you never say? Or would you rather share your idea imperfectly? Communication is the goal. A slightly wonky sentence that gets your point across is infinitely better than a perfect sentence that stays trapped in your head. Embrace the imperfections. They're part of your learning journey, not a sign of failure.
Now, to make speaking feel less like a high-stakes performance and more like a casual chat, I highly recommend you use simple, real-world phrases. You don't have to sound like a university professor or a news anchor right out of the gate.
Exactly. Start with a toolkit of phrases that are common, useful, and easy to remember. Things like, could you please repeat that? I'm not sure I understand. Or, how do you spell that? These are your building blocks. And add some conversational fillers, like, that's an interesting question. Let me think about that for a second. Or, in my opinion. These phrases buy you time and help you participate in conversations without needing to form complex, multi-clause sentences on the fly.
And speaking of building blocks, let's introduce a fantastic technique that feels a bit like training wheels for your mouth. Practice shadowing and repetition. Have you ever listened to a podcast or a video in English and tried to repeat what you hear, mimicking the intonation, rhythm, and accent?
That's shadowing. It's an incredibly effective way to improve your pronunciation and the musicality of your speech without the pressure of creating your own sentences from scratch. Find a short audio clip. A few sentences from this very episode, a line from a movie, a bit from a TED Talk, and try to speak along with it, almost like an echo. This trains your mouth muscles and helps your brain connect sounds to spellings more smoothly.
Finally, let's talk about a subtle but powerful idea. You can control the conversation pace. Many learners feel like they're just passengers in a fast-moving conversation, but you're not. You're a co-pilot. If you feel overwhelmed, remember you have the power to slow things down by deliberately slowing your own speaking rhythm.
That's a great point. When you speak more slowly, it often subconsciously signals to the other person to match your pace. You can also be more direct. Use phrases like, could you say that again a little slower, please? Or, just a moment, I'm thinking about how to phrase this. It's perfectly acceptable to pause and gather your thoughts. It doesn't make you look weak. It makes you look thoughtful. You're an active contributor who can and should influence the flow of the interaction for better understanding. Now, let's tackle the elephant in the room. That nagging, persistent fear that often accompanies speaking a new language. It's real. It's powerful. And as we said, it's a well-documented psychological response. But the good news is it's also something we can absolutely manage.
One of the most effective evidence-based ways to chip away at anxiety is through gradual exposure, starting small and building up. Think of it like dipping your toe in the water before jumping in. If you're afraid of heights, you don't start by skydiving. You start on the first step of a ladder. Don't feel pressured to give a huge speech in English tomorrow.
Right. Let's build a ladder. The first rung might be just thinking to yourself in English. The next could be using a language app that has you repeat phrases. Then maybe you order a coffee in English. After that, you could move to a small supportive group, like a language exchange meetup where everyone is in the same boat. This incremental approach allows your brain to adapt and slowly rewrite the script that says, speaking English is a threat.
Another huge anxiety buster is preparation. Anxiety loves a vacuum. If you go into a situation unprepared, your brain will fill that empty space with what-ifs and worst-case scenarios. So, if you know you're going into a situation where you'll need to speak English, take 10 minutes to prepare.
Let's make that concrete. Say you have a doctor's appointment. Before you go, think about the conversation. How will it start? Hi, I have an appointment with Dr. Smith. What might they ask? What seems to be the problem? What vocabulary will you need? Headache, sore throat. For the past 3 days. Jot down these key phrases. Practice them out loud in front of a mirror. This isn't about memorizing a rigid script, but about having a mental framework. The more prepared you feel, the less room there is for anxiety to take over.
Beyond external preparation, let's talk about your inner game. Positive thinking and relaxation techniques. Our thoughts have a massive impact on our feelings. If you go into a conversation thinking, I'm going to mess this up, they'll think I'm stupid, you are priming yourself for anxiety.
Instead, you need to actively challenge that narrative. Before you speak, try some positive self-talk. Tell yourself, my English is good enough for this. It's okay to make mistakes. My goal is to communicate. Couple this with simple relaxation techniques. A few slow, deep breaths before you enter the room can work wonders. Try box breathing. Inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 4, exhale for 4, and hold for 4. This simple act can calm your nervous system and bring you into the present moment.
Let's also address a very specific and common fear: the fear of negative evaluation. The idea of someone listening to us and judging our English can be paralyzing. But here's a crucial perspective shift. Most people, especially native speakers, are incredibly patient and often genuinely appreciative that you're making the effort to speak their language.
That's so important to remember. Think about it from the other side. If someone was trying to speak your native language to you and they were struggling a bit, would you judge them? Or would you be impressed and try to help? 99% of the time, it's the latter. If someone is judging you, that says far more about their lack of character than it does about your language skills. Focus on your own journey and the person you're trying to connect with, rather than getting caught up in what you imagine they might be thinking. Overcoming fear isn't about eradicating it. It's about learning to manage it and to speak despite it.
All right, we've talked about practical tips and how to tackle fear head-on. But true, lasting confidence doesn't just come from techniques. It comes from within. It's about cultivating the right mindset, a new way of thinking about yourself and your language journey.
First and foremost, believe in what you say. So often we get hung up on how we're saying something, the grammar, the pronunciation. But what's even more important is what you're saying. Confidence isn't just about perfect language. It's about the conviction behind your words. When you are passionate and knowledgeable about your topic, that belief shines through, often overshadowing any linguistic imperfections.
I love that. Think about it. Your unique perspective, your ideas, your humor, your stories, that's the real value you bring to a conversation. That's the gift. The English language is just the wrapping paper. And honestly, people are far more interested in an exciting gift in slightly crinkled wrapping paper than an empty, perfectly wrapped box.
Next, and this is a big one that requires daily practice, accept mistakes as part of learning. For many of us, school taught us that mistakes are bad. A red X on a test meant failure. We have to unlearn that. In language acquisition, mistakes are not failures. They are data points. They are proof that you are trying and pushing your boundaries.
Every single mistake is a stepping stone. When you get a word wrong and someone corrects you, you've just received a free, personalized language lesson. Let go of perfectionism. It is the ultimate confidence killer. Embrace the messy, imperfect, sometimes embarrassing process of learning, because that is where every ounce of real growth happens.
And hand in hand with that is a mantra we should all adopt: consistency over perfection. We often wait for the perfect moment to speak, the moment when we feel totally ready, when we know all the words. But that moment rarely, if ever, comes. Instead, focus on small, consistent acts of practice.
Absolutely. An imperfect 5-minute conversation every single day is infinitely more beneficial than waiting for a perfect hour-long conversation that happens once a month. It's like going to the gym. You get stronger by lifting manageable weights consistently, not by trying to lift an impossibly heavy weight once and giving up. Don't break the chain of daily practice.
To truly embed these shifts, try practicing active listening and presence. This is a game changer. When you're in a conversation, it's so easy to get caught up in your own head, frantically planning your next sentence while the other person is still talking. This just fuels anxiety. Instead, make a conscious effort to be fully present. Listen carefully to what the other person is saying, not just to their words, but to their tone and intention.
When you're genuinely engaged in listening, two things happen. First, you understand more, which makes the conversation richer. Second, your responses become more natural and spontaneous because they're genuine reactions, not pre-planned scripts. You're actually in the conversation, not just performing in it.
Finally, don't forget to use your visual and physical cues. Our bodies and our minds are deeply connected. If you're slumped over, avoiding eye contact and fidgeting, you're sending a signal to your own brain that you're nervous and unconfident. Consciously change your physiology. Stand or sit up straight, relax your shoulders, make friendly eye contact, and use hand gestures to help explain your message.
It sounds simple, but it works. A confident posture and a friendly smile can actually trick your brain into feeling more at ease. They convey confidence to the person you're speaking with, which makes them more comfortable, which in turn makes you more comfortable. It's a powerful positive feedback loop you can start with just your body language. So, we have covered a lot today. We started with that startling realization that a huge number of learners can speak English, but only a small percentage do, all because that wall of fear gets in the way.
We've armed you with practical, on the ground strategies. Speak slowly and deliberately. Focus on communicating your message, not on perfect grammar. Build a toolkit of simple phrases and use shadowing to train your mouth and ears.
We dove deep into the psychology of fear and how to manage it through gradual exposure, solid preparation, and calming relaxation techniques. We talked about letting go of that crippling fear of what other people might think.
And finally, we reframed our entire approach with those crucial mindset shifts. Believing in the value of what you have to say, truly accepting mistakes as signposts of growth, and prioritizing small, consistent efforts over some mythical perfect moment.
Now, here's our challenge to you. Don't just let this episode be something you listen to while driving or washing the dishes. Make it active. Pick one thing that resonated with you today. Just one. If you're a beginner, maybe your one thing is to learn 5 useful phrases and say them out loud to yourself. If you're more intermediate, maybe your challenge is to join one online conversation this week, no matter how nervous you feel. Start small.
Remember, every single word you speak, no matter how imperfect it feels, is a victory. It's a step forward. It's you claiming your voice. The world is full of people who would love to hear your perspective and your stories. Don't let fear keep you silent any longer.
If you found this episode helpful, please do us a favor and share it with a friend who might also be on this journey. And for even more resources, including a downloadable PDF with all the key phrases and tips from today's show, be sure to check out the show notes.
Until next time, keep practicing, keep learning, and most importantly, keep speaking.